welcome once again to the Vaingate Chronicles. Today we are doing our weekly recap video of Letters to Maria, which basically consists of our actor Max Easy, who plays Edrin Montcoff, reading out loud his letters that his character writes to his character's wife, Maria. Before we start, let's just everybody say hello to the audience. I'm Russell Kirkby.
Hi.
We've got Barry. We've got Michael.
Hello, audience.
We have Steve. Hey, we have Joe. And last
Hello.
but not least, we have Max Easy, who is going to take it away.
I'm going to take it away.
Yeah.
I'm taking it away, and I've taken it away now. So,
right.
Yes. This is letter number 8, Return to the Surface. So this is episode 7's recap. Yes, wow. Episode 7's recap.
All right.
Sorry, me. Letter number 8, Return to the Surface. I'm having some technical difficulties. Apologies. There we go. Letter number 8. Dear Maria, for the past 3 or so letters, you have read of nothing but our exploits in these Asturian ruins, hidden within what I believe are the surface layers of the Underdark. Giant spiders, ogres, caches of gold, long forgotten, strange magics beyond comprehension. I'm sure that you, just like we did, long for some normality, or some pause or break to our delving in so dark and damp a place. I might allow you some dramatic irony, as they call it, in allowing you to know that all members end this day cuddled beneath the warmth of a sturdy and welcoming blanket. My last entry had concluded with the drow elves Mindral and Kalea being released from their cage, but not from their imprisonment, as Leith, Adric, and Brixton had bound the terrified and submissive drow's hands together. Whilst I did what I could to gather components for my familiar's summoning spell, Gadale searched the bodies of the fallen drow we had just recently slain. Upon their person was more gold, the same as those we had found in the warded chest. Not only this, but Gadale had also discovered small vials of brackish water. All but a few of us tried to discern what this was, using what limited tools and knowledge we had on hand, short of drinking it ourselves, which the drow suggested that we do. Thus, we shrugged the idea from our minds. All that we gathered was that it was foul-smelling, but likely harmful, as our captives had recommended we consume it. I asked Gadale if she knew the young lad who had been caged with her. Alas, he had been out since her capture, and therefore had no time or way to converse or interact with the youth. He was at least 15, no younger or older looking than Edgar's Philip. Not wanting to leave the boy down there unceremoniously unburied, which we had very little time or safety in which to entertain such a ceremony, it was decided that we would at least carry him out. Hamir prodded the boy with the butt of his quarterstaff, making some comment on dead weight or the such. Already at my wit's end with the mage, I grabbed his staff and warned him to pay more respect to the dead. I think he could tell that even my patience with him had been drained dry and did little more to aggravate the situation. Brixton, knowing well the lost and forgotten urchins of the city through his unscrupulous connections, gazed more extensively upon the cold and silent boy, only to recognize him as one Ben Silden. It must have pained Brixton to see a child he knew, even very remotely, dead before him, for I saw a solemn look glaze over his otherwise bright and heroic countenance. Death is tragic for those who have lived a good life, more so than those who did not. Yet even more heartbreaking is the passing of those who never truly got a chance to live at all. Despite our own looks at the evidently deceased boy before us, Gadale, whose expert medicine skills could not confirm nor deny his expiration, touched young Ben and spoke a healing word into his flesh. A coughing, rasping gasp of life shook his body, rattling his lungs once more with the intoxicating allure of air. This boy, Ben, had not been dead at all, simply catatonic, his body evidently working so hard to keep his internals barely moving that no external evidence of his essence could be seen. It was then that heavy footfalls like those belonging to the felled ogres around us could be heard further down in the abyssal bowels of these neglected ruins, and guttural brutish grunts that set our hearts to beating like a war drum within our ears. Fearing another savage battle that we may not walk away from, we fled up the inclining stairs back to whence we came. Behind us, in the diminishing glow of mine and Hamir's lights, did we see the large silhouettes emerge from the shadowy gloom. We made little time in staying at the skeletal ship, for despite wishing to recover more of these treasures and riches for the envoy, we put our own well-being first. Goodale seemed struck by the sheer amount of wealth, but more so the historical find she had just been led to, yet there was little time for her to relish this sentiment, as once we heard the rumbling growls from behind us, we began our expeditious retreat from the ship back to the archway where we first encountered that vanishing spider, what was merely an omen of the horrors yet to come. We reached again that terrifying, fathomless pit, which we all needed to leap across. Brixton, with his deftly nimble skills, made easy work of the gap, as did Leith. Standing forth from his position, Adric tied rope around the drow. He offered to either throw them or untie their bonds, enable for them to put their own fate within their hands. The first drow, Kalea, had made it across reasonably well. However, Mindral required some assistance, getting stuck halfway across the rope line we all used for support. With the aid of Adric, he safely got across. It seemed it was not the chasm, though, that Mindral needed to fear, for once whispering a small few words into Adric's ear once they had both gotten across safely, the dwarf grew to an ogre's size and with his large, firm hands dangled the dark elf over the lip of the drop. Naturally, all of us made quite some fuss about not harming the captive. Adric assured us that nothing untoward would come to the drow, implying that something may indeed happen to him were he not cooperative with his following line of questioning. After a short exchange that no one present could understand, Edric returned our drow prisoner to the safety of Stable Rock before shrinking back to his typical size. Goodale followed this altercation with a leap, and I, ever the gentleman, allowed Hamir to go first. He did struggle in the traversement, but was eventually aided across. I myself, when my turn came, too had difficulty making the gap, but as I froze in place, attempting to keep my balance, I once more, with the aid of magic, stepped to the firm ground beyond, and we continued our ascent. Pardon me. Ben Silden, fear not, made it across atop Adric's shoulder. Once we reached the surface, atop a tent sat 3 ravens, each one eyeing us with their blackened, voidful glares. Under the cover of the tarpaulin canvas, hiding from the rain as it poured and pattered against the slick muck beneath our feet, 3 wizards, evidently the masters of these avian familiars, met us. We greeted our unwarm welcomers, whom we told about the drow and spiders, they relayed unto us that such information would be best taken to Xandor Rem immediately. The mages were particularly interested in the drow that we held captured with us, whom they undoubtedly were going to want to interrogate. Hamir exposed to these mages that we had with us some magical items of value that we had discovered in the ruins. Leith, the pure-hearted soul that he is, took offense to this divulgence, especially as it had been more of a rattish move to wound our reputation or remove from our person items that could potentially aid in our recovery of the other items these mages seemed to have already claimed for themselves, whilst doing very little of the actual work. I would weep at the very sight of abuse or injustice against the less fortunate or downtrodden, had I not seen it every day of my life in the streets below my windows. I have witnessed the exploitation of the underprivileged from afar, and still have within my conscience a twang of pain at such a sight, and an urging need for correction. Yet these wizards enable such exploitation, and drive it first hand, yet seem unfazed by it all. Perhaps I'm of better moral stock, or of weaker, ambitious constitution. But the whole of history has been written on the backs of the forgotten and the oppressed. I remembered that he had been quite adamant about the clairvoyant potion Leith had indicated as being an item of interest for him. I once again brought it back up and handed it over a vial. Of course, I had not the potion of clairvoyance, but one of healing, for we may purchase or retrieve one of these at another time, and with that allowed ourselves to pass unharassed and within our possession a divination-schooled potion. Goodale started to be afflicted by another one of her fits, and thus we cleared the area of people and objects in order to allow her space. Adric, whilst we loaded onto the cart the golds he had stashed into his pack, and Goodale, once she had come from her sieges and confirmed to us with a nod that she was safe to be moved, asked Leith and I to help at some point in retrieving the drow that he had most recently threatened, the one he had dangled from the ledge. From the mages, most recently threatened, the one he had dangled from the ledge, and retrieve him from the mages once they were done extracting their information from him. It seemed that Adric, despite having a conflict with this drow earlier, thought that he was trustworthy, or at least the most useful of the two in order to aid us. It must have been related to their previous quarrel, as the dwarf was rather set off earlier, like some rage had broken within him. Not the rage of battle or of bloodthirst, but that of patience and conscience. We agreed, and I immediately went about asking the wizards if we may have this Mandral back once they were finished with him. Adric and I told some cock and bull story about how he was very repentant and very helpful to us, yet the wizards seemed unmoved by our sympathetic plight for the drow, and remained blinded to his usefulness to our endeavour below the surface. After this, we began to make our way under the palatial district and into the tunnels. Here, whilst making notes, I asked Leith a pertinent question, pertinent at least to me, for I saw something within that young elf's eyes when he threatened those drow that worried me. It was that same look I'd seen twinkling in my father's eyes, that glint that accompanied my brother's smile, that spark of something emerging from the depths of the id and manifesting into the reality of that spark of something emerging from the depths of the id and manifesting into reality that so oft occurred within our boy. I asked him if he had truly meant to harm those drow, or whether it was all some intimidating flim-flam. He assured me it was the latter. This put my worries to rest, for Leith can be somewhat naive. As we left, he got some schoolyard argument with Hamir about our last battle that did little resolve any conflict of the present. Yet he is, as I previously said, of good heart and soul, and of the most upstanding morality and conscience, and I think I would weep at the sight of him losing such divinity, if it ever came to that. Laughing and chattering could be heard ahead, and in the dim glow of my lantern, above the rim of my downturned spectacles, I saw before us a group of elven children playing in the makeshift underground street. Perhaps it is my consistent pessimism, the paranoia of life-threatening obstacles, the link betwixt children and Brixton's reprobate connections, or the twisted souls of Peter or Philip, but I got an unnerving feeling from them. Screaming from the oxen echoed down the tunnel, the cracking of wood splintered the air, and I felt my center of gravity shift as the ground flipped to meet me on my side and pushed itself into a forced, unwelcome embrace. The cart had somehow capsized, spilling the contents and oxen, the only innocent reason for such an accident, were in distress. They had not done so out of malice or rebellion, but some strange providence must have overcome them, especially so close to our hidden door. In a rush, Adric broke for his beasties, allowing the rest of us to either aid in that regard or recover the spilled contents that now laid in the slick dirt. It took some time to correct the cart, re-embark the items into the back, and calm the oxen enough in order for them to continue. All of this before Hamir eventually noticed that Brixton and the drow Mandral were missing. We allayed the snarky caster's fears of betrayal and deceit by saying that Brixton had most likely gone ahead, not only to ensure the area was clear, but also to deliver the drow with him in case the occurring accident had been some part of a lepers of naught ambush, as I am not sure if Leith was the only one to know of my gaseous distraction the day before. Returning to the barracks, Xandor Rem was already outside, supervising the offloading and organization of the incoming goods, for he recognized that we, the party he had sent to investigate the mysterious and potential fatal dig site, had indeed come back, missing Brixton, accompanied by an elven cleric, and with a bound drow in tow. I am unsure what happened to Ben Silden at this point. He must have been taken to the infirmary by some worker who assisted in his dismounting of the wagon as we ascended the building to Rem's office to talk in more detail of what we had seen. Claire was taken from our protection and marched off to the uncertain unknown. We, being Adric, Leith, Goodale, and myself, explained to Mr. Rem that we came across what we came across: the spider attack on Hamir, the chasm, the ogres, the skeletal serpent, the funeral ship, the spider riders and the riders' spiders, finding Goodale, the drow attack, and that damnable cursed book. Goodale, with her ever-blessed soul, seemed to feel somewhat indebted to us for having freed her. I know, as you are fully aware, what it is like to be in debt. I truly hope she does not feel this way, for I would never wish that sentiment upon someone as noble and true as she. However, regardless, her resolve was to stay with us in journeying further into the ruins, believing that her deity had sent her down there for a reason. And whatever that reason was, and whatever that was, to have found us or not, I do not know. But she is of sound mind and good judgment, thus I am sure there is method to her joining our madness. We disappointed Rem in that we were unable to find the aforementioned missing parties. Leith asked if we could replace Hamir, as he does seem to exacerbate the conflict and tension within the group. Rem said he would do what he could, but, and I voiced these concerns later, that if anyone would be onto us, it would be Hamir. Keeping him close would mean that he could not work against us behind our backs, unchecked upon the surface, but also that we might keep our eye on him, give him little reason to distrust us, and thus woo over our most ardent critic. In our quarters, we waited for Brixton to return, and when he did, he was escorted by Rem and held his own hand to his head, blood welling from a shallow wound beneath his palm. Once Rem had retreated from view, Brixton confessed to us that it was all part of his ruse, as he had, through the hidden door, helped the drow escape the Daughters of Twilight, where he gave Mindral over into the care of Milmore Glass. The story he told Rem was that Mindral tried to escape, and thusly the head injury, his disappearance, and the lack of a drow. I'm skeptical to the efficiency of this lie, as he said he had issues with the guards at the gates of the domain, meaning that now witnesses have seen him with Mindral, saying he worked for Glass, and we are meant to be keeping this excavation a secret, and with a supposed drow running around town that doesn't scream secretive or covert to me, meaning our tracks may not be well covered. Yet I have faith. Milford Brixton has not gotten thus far in his life, getting to be such a skilled rogue or a well-known institution of a figure without his luck and craftsmanship of ploys. Everything works out well for Brixton. The rest of us, I am not so sure. I only pray that we may be as expertly crafty as he. I only realize these worries now, writing, and after our discussion. While I am not anxious, I am certainly aware that now events are in motion that may steadily work against us. During our planning, Adric, Goodale, and I converged on a single small statuette, once again found hiding in a small cranny behind some cobwebbed books, much like that one I found in Adric's room that was of the scrying type, and once again I tossed it from our window with a nonchalant yawn. To turn long to short, our plan is to ingratiate ourselves with the envoy enough to be hired to protect a boat full of outbound relics and sundry. If we can pry from the ruins any other items with us, it would be a bonus, but the sailing vessels seem to be our most reliable escape. Goodale naturally had reservations of our trustworthiness, and we excused ourselves by contextually putting the Barakyle envoy in their proper dimmed lighting. Yet I do acknowledge that it does not pardon us from our illegal and conspiratorial actions. We had to disclose to Goodale our intent, for she had been so open with us. You see, she revealed to us that her fits were a result of visions and discussions with her patron Sehanine Moonbow, the goddess of the moon, whom you know was banished when the Parkad meteor tore through the moon and created that great rift that has scarred the face of Sidariel for centuries. To be receiving visions from not only such a divine being, but also one who has been missing from the Celadrin pantheon for some ages past, is spectacular. Goodale is truly a blessed soul. Leith himself also divulged the origins of his powers, a celestial black unicorn he met while traveling, imbuing young Leith with powers, and through small migraines seems to visit him from time to time. The being's name is Tozan, and the owl that often accompanies him outside is a gift and guide from the ebony unicorn. Brixton made note of what little time we had left, roughly 3 days by our estimates, and that may be rushed along soon as the Moldrayan royal house is starting to catch on to these extra-legal and possibly even treasonous excavations. But we set down our plan and resolutions, so I made a move. Grabbing a fine bottle of brandy, I poured a drink out for everyone present, as is customary Vanderholt tradition, and made a toast to happiness, freedom, and life. May we suffer as many sorrows as drops of brandy that remain in our glass. As you are well aware, a common drinking toast in Vanderhold, but I'm sure something of a new concept to my fellow compatriots. I knocked the drink back, down my broad gullet, and the others followed, with Leith just taking a sip, unaccustomed to the sweet and powerful brew, no doubt. A retainer came by to drop off some material components that I had inquired after in order to re-summon Tup. That and some cheese and honey in order to entice him once more into following me. Then we rested. In the morning I shall return Tup to the material mortal world, and we shall once more delve deeper into the pits of the Underdark. Dearest Maria, I am becoming anxious. I fear that with such security and desire to remain secretive, that the envoy may catch on to our plans, or that, if they are late in realizing our intents, they at the very least make leaving or continuing in the city extremely difficult. But what more can I say after all that has happened? I would inquire into your day or moods or fancies, but I've already done so and have not yet received a reply to those ones due to my inaction and inability to send these at the current time. I feel as though now I am writing to myself. I miss your sage advice. I miss the warmth of our fire and the cushions of my plush armchair. Oh, to be back in Vanderhold. Yet to be back would be to die indebted, destitute, and forgotten. Fear not, for I have not, nor ever shall, forget you or my duty I owe to you as a husband and a friend. All my thoughts and best wishes, Maria, Baron Edrin Stywell Krilinovich Montkov. End of letter number 8.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Thank you very much, Max, for encapsulating our latest... Well, was that the last episode or the one before, wasn't it?
That was the one before.
Right. So we're...
However... Yes, sorry.
So we are basically one episode behind as far as recaps go, which I think is kind of a good place in a way, because then anyone coming along to it gets a little bit of a sort of backstory. They don't get the full, right on the edge of the cusp kind of update, which in a way leaves it a little bit more mysterious. You know, there's more reason to pay attention in that respect. So yeah, if you don't know, Vaingate. The Vaingate Chronicles is D&D 5e live stream game, which is what we normally would be doing right now, where Barry Tahira, who can give us a wave, plays Milford Brixton, who's one of our main protagonists. Then Michael Beish is playing Adric Fogdar. He can give us a wave. He's a mountain dwarf, is that right?
Yes, indeed.
Technically, and he's a rune knight, and so he's along for the ride. Then we have Leith Mistralath, played by Steve Austin.
Hey.
Who is he's a wood elf, is that correct? Or a high elf, actually?
Wood elf, yeah.
He's a wood
originally
elf, right,
from
Mistralath, yes.
the... What region was it?
He's from the region known as Sadariel to Larathion, or also the Lockhart Lake region.
Lockhart Lake, yeah.
Right.
Just outside of.
Right. And he's a warlock, actually. His patron is a celestial unicorn called Tozen. Technically, Tozen is a Kyrin, but nobody needs to know that. Certainly not you guys. And then we have Joanne Grotenhouse, who plays Gudale Dala Talandaran. There you go. I managed to get all of that out. And she is a devotion cleric. Recently joined the stream, and amazing. Followed by Max Easy, who plays, of course, Edrin Montkov. So that's what we would normally be doing. We actually do our live streams of our game on a Thursday night at 7 p.m. in New Zealand. And that's plus 13 UTC to anyone trying to figure all of that nonsense out. So technically we're like a day ahead of everywhere else in the world. It's in the Northern Hemisphere, like America, basically, pretty much America, and about 6 hours behind. So a day ahead and 6 hours behind, if that makes any sense. So something like that. I think in New York right now it'll be Friday evening at this very moment, like 7 o'clock, something like that. Whereas for us right now, it's Saturday, isn't it? Hang on,
Sunday.
In which case it's Saturday night. Saturday night in New York, I mean.
Losing track of your days, Russell.
Oh my goodness, you've no idea. So
we work them so hard.
I should also like to say that if you are watching this stream and you haven't subscribed or you haven't followed us, we'd really appreciate it because we've got like 99 or something subscribers or followers
100.
right now.
We had 100 yesterday.
Well, one of those bastards left us for yeah. So I don't know what that was about. I mean, who just subscribes to a channel and then just leaves like 5 minutes later? Anyway, I guess that's their prerogative. We'll just hunt them down and kill them later. And we have a YouTube channel as well at youtube.com/c/Sidarhael, which is written all around here somewhere. You'll see it. So yeah, thank you for watching. Do any of you guys have any other messages you'd like to pass on?
I just want to say, Max, that was beautifully written once
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
It's
Thank you.
fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you. It could have been betterly orated, but my brain is a little bit here and there. If Americans, those viewers who aren't in New Zealand, we recently just went back into lockdown,
Right.
which has thrown us. Well, I can only speak for myself. Totally thrown me off kilter.
Yeah, I get that.
So, but yes, thank you for coming along and listening to me monologue for 20 minutes.
Right. Oh, and I guess in other news, our dear Barry Tahira, i.e. Milford Brixton, has recently acquired himself a new microphone, a new headset, a new background, and a new light. So we are continually trying to upgrade our overall sound and visual quality as we go along. We're slowly getting better at all of this nonsense. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Hope you can see that we're doing our best. So yeah, good luck. Have fun. Thanks for watching. Final words from anybody? No, we're all good. All right.
No,
See you
thank
later.
you.
We'll see you
Bye.
all
See you
Bye.
later.
on the next one.